Hi, my name is Dave Poland. I'd like to welcome you to Portland Film Beat. My guest tonight is Ron Bourke. He's a writer, director, and producer. He's a filmmaker, and he balances commercial work with documentary projects, exploring issues that he is passionate about. Tonight, we're going to talk about one of his passionate about issues, which is a documentary he made called Lessons of Basketball and War. It's a great documentary. You make commercials and documentaries. To you, how are they similar and how are they different?
It's interesting because they don't have to be that much different. I've found, like in my commercial work, I started noticing that they tended to be more documentaries than anything else.
Okay.
And that's what I gravitated to,
Right.
is stories about real people, real experiences. And even if you're advertising a product, like a lot of the work I do is for high-tech companies. So I may be sent to India to do a film on education in India. Now it's serving a commercial product.
Okay.
Large chip manufacturer that's very interested in third world education. So there is a commercial end to it, but in the end, you're really telling a story about people in their lives.
Oh,
And
wow.
and how they're trying to make their lives better.
So do you get to travel a lot doing your documentaries?
Oh,
like
quite
that?
a bit. Quite
Really?
a bit, yeah.
Okay, besides India, where else have you been?
Boy, Russia, China, Indonesia, North
Really?
Africa, Colombia, most of Europe. It goes on and on.
That's really cool.
It's a nice benefit.
And you get to meet the people themselves.
Yes.
You know, you're not, so that's really great
Yeah. And
to get to be paid
Yeah.
to travel and make documentaries about
Yeah.
the people themselves. That's
Yeah.
got to be an awesome
Yeah.
experience.
And a lot of that's commercial work, like somebody's paying me to do that,
Right.
which is wonderful. I'm not going to knock that at all. But what's interesting is then I get back home and I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I see people walking down the street. In fact, my film Lessons of Basketball and War, it sort of started when I would see kids, young kids, especially the girls, that seemed to be African. I guess they were Muslim. I wasn't quite sure. I really didn't know,
Right.
because they were out of context for me. They weren't in India. They weren't in Kuwait.
Right.
They were on
They're still dressed in the just
yeah, they were going down Powell Boulevard in Portland, Oregon.
Right.
You know, but they were dressed as you would see them in Africa, and I really got curious.
Right. Okay.
And
Right.
that was sort of the genesis of the
Right.
film.
So you've won a lot of awards. You know, you won the New York Festival's International TV and Film Award, the Gold World Medal, Silver Scene Gold Eagle Awards, the Houston International Film Festival Gold Medal, and an American Film Institute Independent Filmmakers Grant. So which one of these means the most to you, and why?
Well, probably the first one I was given. And I guess one isn't the right word, but one of my very early projects was for the Cancer Society on a camp for children with cancer. And after working on that project, it was a very heartfelt project, something I felt very deeply about.
That's got to be kind of touching.
A lot of them didn't live to the year after we made it.
And
You know,
it's
so
gotta be
very
very hard for
touching, but
you.
it was a very important project. But they presented me with a little plastic statue, probably cost $2, you know, at the dollar store, and it said Best Director. And I've still got that, and that probably means more to me than anything else.
Right, just because of the underlying subject matter and everything
Absolutely.
else, your first documentary
Yeah.
about kids with cancer, and wow, that has to be real. I can understand why that would be touching to you. So today we're going to talk mostly about his documentary, Lessons of Basketball and War. Now I watched the film, and I have to tell you, it made me cry. This film is what America's about. You know, it's about immigrants and refugees, and how this coach, Kevin Bacon, right? Mm-hmm. How he changed lives of these girls. It was awesome. Now I'm going to read you the log line. A dedicated educator is challenged by an unruly group of Muslim refugee girls from war-torn Somalia as he struggles to help them overcome ethnic hostility and violence while adapting to their new home in America. Now, I talked with Juan a little bit. The hostility wasn't between the American girls and the Somali girls. It was between Somali girls and Somali girls. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, just a little backstory. In the country of Somalia, as I think most of us know, it's been racked by civil war,
Horrible.
famine. A large part of the population has left the country and are now in camps in Kenya. Just a horrible situation. And in about 10 years ago, the United States let in 10,000 refugees, which is sort of interesting because we're about to do that again with refugees from Syria.
Right. So did a lot of the Somalian refugees come to Portland?
I wouldn't say a lot. The largest population is...
I mean, we've all noticed them walking around town.
Right, right.
Because they wear the pretty dresses. And,
oh, yeah, gorgeous clothes.
Yeah, they
gorgeous
dress,
clothes.
they're gorgeous.
Yeah. And as I was saying earlier, you know, I would see them walking around and I got very curious. And then there was a small little article in the East Side edition of the Oregonian about how this basketball program was started by the coach, Kevin Bacon. He's the other Kevin Bacon. He's Portland's Kevin Bacon.
Is he 60 degrees removed? Is that however?
All I know, if we ever play that game, I'm one away.
Right.
And he was starting a basketball program because of problems with them fighting with each other. So I got very curious and I started, you know, calling him up and emailing him. And I think he sort of tried to ignore me for a while. And then eventually he said, come on over, and we talked. I showed him a few of my films. And he said, sure, bring along a camera.
Meeting Kevin, I mean, this guy has to have the patience of a pope or someone like that, because these girls were probably difficult to deal with.
Yeah, and they didn't know, their English was rudimentary at first, but he decided that there were a lot of problems in the school. And one of the things you'll find out when you watch the film is that some of the Somali girls would fight, and they'd physically fight.
Yeah.
And they tended to want to bite each other, and it was to leave a scar on the other girl's face.
Right. We see. I saw that in the film.
Yeah.
Right? And that's because they leave a mark on.
Yeah. So you know, in our society, that's just not tolerated.
No.
I think
mean,
Kevin says we might punch
somebody
somebody in the face, but we surely wouldn't bite them. You know, one thing's sort of tolerated to a little bit, but biting, that's not tolerated at all. So he really had to come up with a solution and come up with something fast. So he decided that his background was sports. He's a huge basketball fan.
Did he play basketball himself?
You know, I don't know, but he's a
a great job
Oregon
with these
State
girls.
Beaver. He's
Right.
passionate about it. He has coached basketball before, so he decided that was the ticket. Get them to play on the same team. They
Right.
would get to learn about each other, and more than anything else, learn to work together for a common goal. And if they're ever going to be successful in our culture, they're going to have to learn how to work as a
We'll
team.
talk a little later about some of the successes.
Yeah.
Where was it shot?
It was shot at Hosford Middle School.
Right. So you spent a lot of time there.
Yes, spent a school year, October through June.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. It was. We basically got in very early. In fact, when I met with him, he said, "Okay, you can bring your cameras into the school." The next day, we were at a practice.
Is that right?
Yeah, and and at that practice, he was asking the girls, "Who knows how many points you get when you make a basket?" A lot of them didn't know.
Right.
So they were starting at ground zero.
But when you watch that film, you see how it transformed them, how eager they were to play basketball. And he actually, in the end, when they said he was a great coach, he's the best coach, I mean, you can tell they loved this guy
Yeah,
and the
they
work
loved
that he
him.
did with them, you know. And so the culture of the girls is way different than what we're accustomed to. Some marry when they're back in Somalia at 13 or 14 to men who are
Quite a bit older.
and they're selected for them. They don't get any choice in that.
Yeah.
And one was already promised because she's here in America. She has to wait till she was 18.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 18 is the legal age here.
Right. And so at the end, we know one girl find out that, you know, through, you know, at the end that one girl did have 2 children. Was she the one that had to be promised to be married at 18?
Yes.
Okay. So we do know that, right? And so coming here, the cultural difference in that with the parents, did you feel the cultural difference, the parents, some animosity, like we're Somalian, this is our rules, and America, we don't want to go by your rules?
Yeah, wouldn't quite put it that way. And I'm speaking from an outsider. I don't want to speak for them.
Okay.
But
From your observation.
my experience, my observations, they really want to fit into this country. They love America. They are so
Really?
yes, they are so pleased that they have been welcomed here. Because look what they came from. They came from starvation.
We have no idea, really.
Yeah,
I
many
mean,
of
there's
them
some pictures
spent,
of
like-
it. There's pictures of it in the documentary,
Yeah.
but
Many of them spent 10 years in a refugee camp in Kenya under just deplorable conditions. So it's really an opportunity for them to be here, and they appreciate it, but they also value their culture.
Right. Okay.
So I think the main worry of the parents is to hopefully not lose their children to the excesses of American culture.
Right.
Because this is the country of Lady Gaga and Miley Cyrus.
And just you described the fact that some of them never going to a grocery store for the first time was mind-blowing for them. They had no idea.
Yeah.
So.
But as far as the basketball program, most of them are very much for it.
They did know about basketball. Well, they knew about basketball in Somalia probably too.
I'm not sure, but they know
about
it now.
Here
they have television.
Yeah, and they sure know about it here, right? Okay, so the uniforms had to be official and appropriate. And appropriate meaning that it had to fit within their Muslim religious beliefs, and to not show skin and stuff like that. But there was some problems with the parents of the groups that we saw in the film. I saw in the film. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it was decided that they needed culturally appropriate uniforms. That was a that was a must. That
but
the
they have to have
demanded.
Uniforms to play, or else they have to.
They wouldn't be allowed to play. They were playing in the Portland intramural leagues.
And you got to have a uniform, or you're
exactly. So they came up with a uniform that was very clever. They were a couple of the sporting good companies donated like sweatpants and tops with long sleeves, and then they came up with a nice sort of a tunic that they would wear with a number on it. So it sort of had an African feel, but it was a basketball uniform. They decided to allow them all to still wear their own hijab or headscarf. So, and that's something that the girls take great pride in.
Right, and so the mothers actually sewed those uniforms.
Well, that was the idea. That was the going in. There was a
little trouble with that.
Yeah. Sue Shattuck, one of the volunteers on the team, she was a mother of another child at the school. She was volunteering, and she had this great idea that she would get together with all of the mothers. They'd get a couple of sewing machines. One of the mothers was a good seamstress, and they had the fabric, and they'd sew them all together.
Well, I'd have to think so, because they have to sew those beautiful dresses themselves. They can't buy them here.
Yes, absolutely. So it ended up as New Year's Day, and she got the mothers together, and she was expecting this wonderful kumbaya moment where everybody's together, sewing circle. Maybe everybody'd sing songs. But she got there and she found out when the mother at the sewing machine said, well, I'm not going to sew any of the other girls' uniforms, because there was this tribal animosity. And
it carried over here.
Yeah, I should probably explain that. There were three major ethnic groups, Bantu, Oromo, and Somali. And the Somali were the native group that lived in Somalia. They're basically the upper class. Bantu were brought to Somalia in the previous century as slaves. And they were basically agricultural workers, and they were considered lower class. Well, they come to America, and all of a sudden, everybody's on equal footing.
Yeah,
this is the land of opportunity.
It's equal, yeah.
So there was a lot of animosity between the parents, and I think that's where a lot of the animosity between the kids come from.
Right, and you didn't get to capture a lot of that on film.
No, unfortunately, some of the stuff would happen when we had no idea it was happening. So we tell the stories.
Oh yeah, you told the story, but you didn't get to capture a lot of it. Because So how many hours of footage did you catch?
I never counted it up, but I would think easily probably 30 to 40 hours of footage. But I've never quite done the math.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I want to, and it would have probably scared us off the editing process if we knew how much we had to sort through.
Did you edit yourself?
I actually worked with an editor, Della Franklin, who's a ex-CNN editor, now lives in this area, and I work with her on commercial projects a lot. And I roped her into this project, and we spent several months on it, probably a little over a year on the editing.
Wow, yeah. Okay.
We had a unique method that I've never done before, that I have an editing system at my home. She had one at her house, and she would do a cut of a scene, on the internet, just send the list to me. I would look at it. I'd take this out, take that out, put that in, move things around. I'd toss it back to her. She would do a little editing, and we'd sort of like ping-ponging each scene back and forth.
Yeah, it came out nice. Actually, I think what we'll do right now before it gets too late, we are going to watch the trailer from Lessons in Basketball and War, and we'll be right back.
Hi. I heard that there was a war before I was born. Instead of fighting about for no reason. To have a peaceful life. Some of our parents are in Somalia with the war and so. And sometimes I get scared.
markii la dhaaf kooy abbaar 10 sano ba sanadkan lixdaa intii fursad sabati waqtigaas dareen
sidii dagaalin ahayn oo kale ma Americans Arabic.
Conflicts arose because of some tribal differences that have kind of carried over the ocean and into the culture.
No, I don't like to fight, but only if I get mad.
The way they fight, if they get really mad, is that they bite. I think the idea is to shame the other person and leave a mark on the face.
Nobody but me, but I just don't like the fighting that's going on.
My goal was through a team game, start to build unity and that idea of sticking together. If we can get them to focus on that, I think over the course of the season, it's going to be interesting to see how does it have an impact that translates to school and home as far as how they get along together. I want you so much in my heart to be a part of this team. Part of being a team is knowing that when you're in the games together that you can depend on each other.
I'm proud to be Muslim because I like how Muslims are. Like, I thought they all just were one religion or something. I don't know. There's no reason to ask because none of my business. Maybe their parents want to keep it quiet, so. I wanted to be American Next Top Model, but my sisters said that I can't be that because I'm a Muslim. I don't know what to do with my life now. That was the best day of my life, playing basketball.
You know, just from that little bit of the trailer, this is a great documentary. You let me watch the whole thing. It was awesome. It shows how America opened its arms, culture, you know, to different cultures and diversity. You know, it shows the struggle to making it. It's kind of an experiment. That was kind of an experiment to make that work, you know. So when you were filming, did you get a sense of a lot of the tension that was going on between the girls?
Yes, yes.
I mean, was it
and
pretty?
It would vary. There would be some days when there would definitely be tension. There'd be yelling at each other or not wanting to be on the same practice team with certain girls because they had cliques. They were, but the difficulty, I think, for Kevin and in the school is separating what are problems of refugees versus the problems of any American teenage girl.
Okay.
I had a daughter who went through middle school. It was not an easy time.
No, it's not.
No, it's middle school is very difficult.
It's cliquey and you
it's
get called names
cliquey, and it's a
everything.
transition between adolescence and adulthood, and it can be very difficult. So, how much of what was going on was due to the different ethnic groups and being thrust into our society versus just being teenage girls?
There's a whole lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
A whole lot that we could probably never understand.
Yeah.
So tell us how you felt about and still feel about being part of Lessons of Basketball and War.
Well, it's been a journey. It's been several years now. It's one of those things where you think, okay, the editing's done, we're finished, but then we've got to market it. We've got to find an audience. So I've just finished up. This month it'll be a year on the festival circuit. It's played in festivals around the world. I've just signed a deal with a distributor. So it's going to be distributed commercially.
Be able to get that on Amazon, possibly?
Possibly
and Netflix.
Amazon, Netflix, those are goals.
Yeah, I hope so.
In the meantime, as that's going, I am going to be selling DVDs off my website, just in a limited nature.
Right. And the website's there, right there. You can see that if you want to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
And if you want to email him, email you through the website
Yeah,
as well.
there's a contact page on the website if anybody wants to
that's
talk
right.
to me.
Okay, so did the teamwork translate off court.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Did you see a difference? I want you to expand upon that, but did you see a difference in the beginning of the season, how the girls were interacted, and the end of the season?
Yes, but it wasn't black and white. It was a lot of shades of gray, which I should have expected. But you know, you go into something like this and you think it's going to be a hoop dreams type of story where everything's going to be wonderful at the end, you know, and maybe the team will win the championship. They'll sink a basket at the final buzzer, and everybody will be friends.
Well, it didn't show up. I saw it. That one girl
yeah.
shot the 3 free throws and won the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, there are definitely moments like that. But through the whole season, things did not end quite as expected. I don't want to give it all away.
No, we want to watch the film. I give it away a little bit more than I should have probably.
But that's okay. That's okay. But but things were better between the girls.
How do you think playing basketball and interacting as a team helped the girls with being successful in America?
Well, I think
a lot.
You know,
so
it could have
but
been
a lot went on to play to college, and most of them went to college, and two of them played high school basketball as well, didn't they?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. I think it could be basketball, could be soccer, it could be basket weaving, could be a lot of different things. But I think it's important.
Them involved.
Yes, and in our culture, it's very important to be able to work with other people, to work teamwork. If you're going to be in the business world, corporate world, you need to work in teams. And probably just about everything you need to work in teams. You have to.
People skills.
And even if it's somebody you don't like, you've got to be able to get in there and play the game with them, whether it's business or recreation. So I think that's the main lesson, and I think that definitely was learned.
Do you think that the experiment of playing basketball should be continued? And do you think that boys, Somali boys, because there's probably some animosity there with the boys as well, they should be a team put together for them?
There actually is a program, I don't know that much about it, that some Somali high school boys are involved with in Portland area, but I'm not the one to speak to that.
Okay.
The program with the girls was a one-year program. I think Kevin Bacon was burned out after that. He was principal of the school. A principal of a middle school is more than a full-time. That's not a 40-hour week job.
My wife was a teacher, so
that is not a 40-hour week. And then he volunteered all of the coaching work. He did evenings every Saturday for games. It was all on a volunteer basis, and I think 1 year is all he could take at that time. And now he's a principal at another school.
Is it right? So they got to go and talk to the Portland's mayor and the city council.
Yeah.
What was it like in their room? I mean, I saw it. I don't. So.
It was really interesting. There were several grants involved in putting the team together, and one of them was through an organization called Vision into Action, which is a Portland organization. I don't know that much about it, but part of the process is to do a report to the mayor and city council.
Okay.
So they
gave the report.
Yes. So they decided
they really confident.
That a couple members of the team would come and speak to the mayor and city council, and they were amazing. They were very poised.
That had to be a great experience for them to prepare in life to do that in the future.
Absolutely.
And I think they gave them encouragement to go to college.
I think it helped.
Most of them went to college. I was really impressed by that. That's what's great about the end of the film. I shouldn't give that away, but you got to watch the end.
But most of them are in Portland Community College right now, or other cities. Some have gone off to other cities. But I think what was interesting about the city council is they were asked to do a presentation. So what they did their presentation on was how they weren't getting along and how basketball was helping them to get along better with each other.
Isn't that great?
It was perfect.
Right.
And from a storytelling standpoint, it was really good for me because I was able to fold in their public appearance in front of the mayor with telling the story of learning to get along with each other.
Did you have to go through a lot to get permission to film there? I mean, from parents?
No, the school sort of handled that for me. I didn't have much. Everybody was very much for it and enthusiastic. The only difficulty was getting them used to me. When the cameras, if you've got a 14-year-old kid and you bring a video camera, they're going to be making faces in front of the camera, or they're going to be hiding. So we got a lot of that. But within 2 or 3 weeks,
they got used to the
camera.
They
totally ignored us.
Right. How many crew members did you have?
Most times just myself and my cameraman, Carl Vandervert,
Okay.
who's a local filmmaker. And sometimes we had 2 cameras for the games. And
Yeah, that you'd have to almost.
Yeah, and Carl Davis, who is another director of photography here in Portland, was also one of the camera people.
What kind of
on it.
cameras did you use?
Sony digital cameras.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
What difficulties did you find any difficulties you encounter filming? I mean, just outside the ones getting them used to you.
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing was the interview process.
Okay.
We used a technique pioneered by Errol Morris, a great documentarian, where the person being interviewed actually has their eye line looking directly into the camera, which can be very difficult to do, and it's technically a little challenging, but it allows you to get more of an emotional sense of that person. So, and when we were interviewing the girls, I interviewed them twice. And the first time it was a lot more difficult. They didn't know me that well. And here's this old, balding, gray-haired white guy trying to get them to speak from their heart.
Right.
And they're not used to doing that anyway.
All right.
Second time we interviewed them, it went way easier and it went quite well. But I think getting them, the idea of trust is very difficult sometimes. And I think for a documentarian, that's one of the most difficult and by far the most important thing is to get the people you are covering to actually trust you. And I think we did that.
What's next for you? Do you have another one planned?
I'm in the very early stages of researching a film. It'll be probably a shorter film on unheralded artist, young man who died at a very early age, never exhibited, and I think he's just incredibly talented. And I want to be able to make his work visible to the public, but also explore issues of creativity and compulsion in art. What causes a person to be an artist and be compulsively creative? And so we all know some people that are, a lot of us wish we could be more creative than we really are, but there are some people that are blessed with a certain amount of creativity.
And then he passed away at a young age.
25 years old.
Wow.
So I'm working right now exploring his story.
Okay.
Very different type of project than the basketball one.
Right now we're running out of time here on Portland Film Beat. I want to thank Ron for being here and talking about Lessons of Basketball and War. It's a great documentary. I suggest you go see it. I want to thank Ellery Nelson, my director, Carol Pullen, my producer, Krista. I want to also thank Joni Jorgensen, Jonathan, the entire crew at TVC TV, and I also want to thank Emily and Kate and the entire crew down at PCM TV for all their help. Until next time on Portland Film Beat, shoot for the silver screen.